jab, jab, swing, jab, 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 swing. It would be quick, jab, swing, and it would be cool, jab, swing, and it would be clear as fizzy water, jab, swing, jab, swing. But this is not panning out exactly as I planned.
So we just got out of the debate about language policing. It's very interesting, especially the audience. The three dudes having the debate, the guy on the left is a hardcore feminist, the moderator is a moderate feminist, and the guy on the right was a sort of fringe, sort of sympathetic to feminism. Of course, none of that mattered because they were all fucking white males. My favourite part was they were talking about PUA, I forget which one, and that they've been banned from the country. And the guy in the middle was like, do you think this is right? And the guy on the left was like, yeah, well, some things, we've got to get rid of the things that are definitely shit. The audience gave a confirmatory chuckle. And the guy in the middle was like, yeah, but surely one man's shit is another man's perfectly valid point. And then it was like, the guy on the left was like, yeah, but I'd say rape and racism are definitely not okay. And the audience clapped. They just keep moving the goalpost to some other thing that they've decided but not confirmed. Yeah, if we decide you're talking about rape or racism in a way we disapprove of, then fuck you. This is a debate about language policing, which was already over before it started because the audience, on the whole, had decided that language should be policed according to their ideology. It's all... I thought it was just this feeble, anemic thing, but it turns out, no, this is hardcore. They don't give a fuck. I'll show you the footage, actually. I got some of, what's her name?
It's about permission for men to celebrate and be bewildered, just as we are as women. It's nothing to do with attacking men for not supporting women in the appropriate way.
This is roughly where we came in. This is from the debate on language policing. It was the first event on the second day, but I thought I'd make it the first thing I'll show you in part one, because it gives a good overview of the festival's unwritten manifesto, as it were. As I said, it wasn't much of a debate, but as you could predict, it's hard to talk about language policing for 45 minutes without bringing up the subject of feminism. And when you do, it becomes conceivable that feminists might account for more perpetrators than victims of language policing. After all, feminists do a lot of banning and they never get banned. Now, Jude Kelly wasn't on the panel, but this is her jumping in before the Q&A section to throw a wet cloth on that oil fire there.
And even a session like this, chaired by Tim, obviously, who has very strong feelings, is not about a festival of men having a go at a festival of women.
That's one of Jude's little sound bites. She wields it every time someone looks like they might be holding women or feminism accountable for anything bad. No, stop that at once. It's not about a festival of men having a go at a festival of women. The thing is, I don't recall anyone bad-mouthing the WoW festival, Jude. But for the purposes of this spiel of yours, women and feminism are the same thing, and they are classified as a festival. And as such are listed sites to be preserved by the National Trust.
They're actually all about humans trying to work out, what does a better world look like?
And what have you ascertained, Jude, about humans and what the world looks like?
Nobody in this room invented patriarchy, and nobody in this room invented white supremacy, not that I'm aware of. But we're subject to it, and we're swimming in it.
What this is a festival of men and women having a go at a festival of white men. Having a go at a festival called the patriarchy that's going on everywhere, every day, forever. You can't point to it or demonstrate its effects, but it's definitely all around us and influences our every decision. Any archangels involved yet? Is there a talking snake at some point? Just so I know. Yeah, no. This is what this is a festival of men and women having a go at white men who do not have a festival. And you can't just say every festival is a patriarchal white supremacist festival. You can't just say every day is International Men's Day. It's not. This is what I'm saying. You can't just push the goalposts out of the universe and claim your version of Satan is everywhere. And yet, yeah, this is a festival which celebrates being a man, unless you're a straight white man. In which case, celebrate something else about yourself. Get a job or something. Do a funny dance.
Gender is a jab. Jab, 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 swing. Gender is a jab. Jab, 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 swing. There are people around us, and I feel silly. Jab, swing.
Laugh not at this man, for he is not wrong. Laugh with him, for he is pitiful. But yeah, this is how it works when you're operating in a battalion of two-faced virtue signalers. You don't need to waste good soldiers attacking the enemy city when you can simply cut off their supply lines and reroute all the resources somewhere else. Then everyone in the city will slowly starve to death, and you can still call yourselves pacifists. This is the ideological equivalent of that. You don't directly attack the group you hate, you just ignore their needs and pamper everyone else. I love black men, I love gay men, I love trans men, I love Muslim men, and I love women of all kinds. And I don't need to consider anyone else, and anyone who says I do is a racist and a misogynist and a trans-Islamo homophobe. See, a two-faced virtue signaler is like an abusively neglectful parent. They don't beat the child or verbally abuse it or have a festival just to say, fuck you, kid. They just make them sleep in the doghouse and eat grass while they throw expensive celebratory festivals for all their other children. The ones who don't look like their dad. And for every 100 neglected children, maybe 5 will die young, 5 will become homeless, 30 will have permanent debilitating developmental issues, 59 will live their whole lives in abject dependence, and 1 will learn how to fend for himself. To an extraordinary degree, and against all odds, he'll go on to be independently successful, to an exceptional degree, way more than any of his pampered siblings. And that 1%, that cold, toxic, possibly sociopathic 1% success rate, is how we know we're all living in a neglected kid-riarchy.
There isn't a we're a matrix. We don't know what it looks like on the other side of this moment.
Woo. Woo punctuated by what I may have to call a Freudian stumble. I have to poop that later.
And if people get angry and upset and defensive, and, it's understandable. But it's not necessarily right, but it's understandable.
I don't actually know who you're talking about there. You've wooed right off the map. Do you mean men or women?
And when they fight back because people have been rude to them, it's very understandable.
Do you mean women fight back against patriarchy and that's understandable? Or do you mean men fight back against feminism and that's not right? Yeah, heads you win, tails I lose. It's one of those jokes that's so real it's not a joke.
And I know that so many women are here, not so they can score points, but they're nodding away, but actually because they want to say to men that they love them.
Remarkable theory. Let's take some questions, shall we?
Alright, fine. My voice might be a little bit shaky.
Are you literally shaking?
I'm having, strong visceral reactions to this, much like I do when I discuss with my Trump-supporting father. So I'm trying to take a beat.
Roughly translated, excuse me while I come down from my cross. Pity me, for my father is a heretic. This came up quite a lot at BAM. It might not surprise you that the vast majority of the speakers and at least a loud minority of the audience were quite vocally anti-Brexit and, of course, anti-Trump. And the most common reason given for being anti-Trump? He said grab him by the pussy 10 years ago. That is all anyone remembers about that fucking 2 or 3 year shit circus that just happened. All the stupid shit he did, all the crooked shit Hillary did, just gone, all of it. Emptied to trash. And there's nothing left but grab him by the pussy. Post-truth much? As for Brexit, they're still grasping at straws. They couldn't find Farage saying anything about pussy in his whole career, so they're still going with racist. But do you see how the hierarchy works? We'll call you a racist until we can figure out how to level you up to misogynist, and then it's fuck the wall. He said he grabs pussies. But of course...
It's nothing to do with attacking men for not supporting women in the appropriate way.
You might think that your assertion has been contradicted by what the young American lady just said. No, see, this is why Jude's giving this speechlet, because she's done this festival for 3 years now, and the WoW Festival for God knows how long, and she knows what's about to happen. We're going to be hearing from a lot of special snowflakes shitting all over the men in their lives. And so Jude popped up to reassure us that what's happening is not in fact what's happening.
And I know that so many women are here, not so they can score points, but they're nodding away, but actually because they want to say to men that they love them.
I mean, a lot of them are having trouble loving their fathers because they voted wrong. But I'm sure that's normal. There's no way that's a symptom of an ideology where patriarchy is the devil. But, yeah, we're not here to have a go at women or feminism, so don't. And we're not here to have a go at men, just patriarchy. So when you see it happening, it isn't, okay?
Alright, fine. My voice might be a little bit shaky. I'm having, strong visceral reactions to this, much like I do when we discuss with my Trump-supporting father. So I'm trying to take a beat.
Yeah, no political point scoring here. No attacking men for not supporting women in the appropriate way here. When it looks like what it is, it isn't. It's just love. And don't say anything in support of Trump or Brexit, because that's hate speech.
And I have a question, which is one I pose to him often, and that is, do you feel like political correctness is something that offends you?
I don't think it's even a coincidence that you got from there to there. You know, political correctness used to be a euphemism. But now it literally means voting for the correct politics. And to answer your question, no, it's not principally something that offends me. It's principally something that infringes on my right to free expression. At best, and now at worst, seeks to infringe on my right to a democratic vote. But I'd be lying if I said I never find it offensive. I mean, I do get quite angry sometimes.
Because as a white man, which is a fact, this is a feeling you've never felt before, which is people, lashing back at you and telling you to censor yourself. Because for so long, women and people of color have had to self-censor.
How are we supposed to have productive conversations with these people? They don't live in reality. They live in a forest, pixie land of unadulterated racism and sexism, where they can just pick their least favourite race and gender and decide they've never suffered. They live in a bizarro timeline of the universe in which 2 seconds ago, white men started to face hardship and struggle. But for the entire rest of history before that, they lived in paradise. They were born, they lived, no one said a bad word to them or pushed them around, and they were given free cheeseburgers and blowjobs until they died. And this thing we all do, where we blame them for all the world's ills, hold them to impossibly high standards, and call them bigots if they ever speak in their own interests. We're the first generation in history to think of doing that to any white men. And so it's perfectly justified of us to keep doing it. And they come straight in with this. Even after Jude said all that shit about women would never do this, she got up and started fucking doing it. She's like, before I do anything else, let's lay the ground rules. White men don't get a voice. Not even my father. Never mind the orphans, never mind the slaves, never mind the working class. All males who are white are rich and powerful and always have been. So we don't have to take them seriously, we don't have to take their needs seriously, and we don't have to take their vote seriously.
And so this panel talking about, self-censorship and being like, oh, it's so difficult and it's so hard now. And it's like, well, actually, for most of humanity, women and people of color have had to self-censor. So it's kind of bringing that conversation forward.
Listen to this. They're applauding. No one's booing, no one's saying, hang on, this is the Being a Man festival, where we give men permission to celebrate. And you just got up and said white men should just shut up and suffer because they've never suffered before. No, none of that. They're just, bravo, well said. This is what they mean when they say they celebrate what men could be. And their vision of what the men of the future should be is a load of black men, gay men, and Muslim men nurturing their sense of cultural identity, while all the straight white men, we're not going to respect you unless you get a really good job and lots of money. So go do that. Then everything will change. Then we won't get so many of these pesky entrepreneurial risk-taking straight white males. Yeah, I'm being sarcastic. You are worsening the very problem you are professing to fix. If you want men out of the CEO positions, then pamper them when they're young, like you do with the girls. Tell them their voice already matters and they don't need to work on themselves because they're already so smart and funny. Treat your boys more leniently than you treat your girls, and your girls will grow up tougher. I'm not saying you should do this, but that's what'll happen. It just never does. People treat their sons like shit, and then when their sons grow up to be more successful than their daughters, the next generation goes, well, we can't have that. We'd better make this right by treating the boys like shit. And each generation gets, if you'll pardon the rather succulent wordplay, progressively worse.
But the lady there saying women are getting paid less and more.
Yeah, much like with the Akala response, I've skipped the talk and headed straight for the Q&A. Very often you learn more from the audience than you do from the speakers.
I think that's rubbish, really, and I'm glad you said it because it allows me to say that's just wrong. I work in HR, I'm the guy that sees the stats, and I just don't accept it. But it's the myth that's put out there, and it's just completely wrong.
Did you hear the gasping?
It's the myth that's put out there, and it's just completely wrong. A man and a woman in the same job in the same firm will get paid the same. If not, people come to me in HR and we'll deal with it. Or there'll be a reason why someone's on a higher pay. If they've got more experience, be there longer. So I just don't accept this stuff about women getting paid less. And in terms of Trump, just to deal with that one, I think Hillary should have won the election.
This is why I didn't want to get up there and ask the difficult questions and say the difficult things. Because this guy's only saying the intermediately trivial things, and already the audience is getting uncontrollably triggered.
Unexperienced, blah, 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 and as a seasoned politician, but she didn't, or I don't have a problem with Trump winning. 60 million Americans voted for him. It's America's choice, and they voted for him. Let him get in, and we'll see what he's about. I think he said what he had to say to win the election. He can't compete with Hillary as a politician.
All the noises. Listen to all the noises. While the young American lady was speaking, none of those noises. The stuff about how white men should shut up and suffer because they've never had to, according to your black and white blanket version of the entire history of humanity, not a fucking peep from the audience, apart from the thunderous applause afterwards. But this man gives you his lived experience, not to mention his statistical findings as a human resources professional, and it's a static storm of hushed outrage, clouding the gentle clinking of the smelling salts. Now, this doesn't indicate that the rational people in this audience are necessarily outnumbered by the groaning hordes of the perpetually disgusted, but it does indicate which side is more polite, more tolerant, and more willing to listen. I accept your assertion that white men don't matter because derp history. Now, did you know the wage gap is a myth? Outrage.
He said what he had to do to get in.
In case you'll have forgotten, and I'm pretty sure you have, he was not running for president 10 years ago when he said that one and only thing you will ever remember him saying.
He spoke to the American people such that more people voted for him in terms of electoral colleges than Hillary, so let him be.
Once again, I take your point, milady, that the needs of certain genetic varieties of humans should be marginalised from any given conversation. But can I just say, I think the democratic voice of America is something to be accepted and respected? Everyone loses their fucking minds. Alright, next.
I just want to say, yeah, this just seems like a really vicious debate and vicious circle, really, as well.
Yes, if you ask me, it started to get vicious when the young lady there said, "My father is a wrong thinker. Sometimes I remind him that he's also a wrong skin. Do you men also realise you are wrong skins?" But I'm guessing a lot of other people would say this debate didn't get vicious until that horrible man started defending democracy and denying the Holy Spirit. Wage gap.
There is self-censorship amongst men when they're trying to say what they want, and amongst everybody, generally.
Yes, men censor themselves around women in case they offend those women. And women censor themselves around men in case those men ever know what they did wrong.
But also, as a feminist, as somebody who just believes in gender equality as a bottom line, you know, I want to talk to my friends, my girlfriends, my guy friends, my parents, everyone, about gender equality.
Yeah, I don't. When I do that, I find myself seeing a side of people I've never seen before. A side I wish I didn't know about. People actually get offended by the idea of men having reproductive rights. Have you noticed? When feminists talk about gender equality, it's annoying. When men's rights advocates talk about gender equality, it's offensive. Which suggests to me quite strongly that we are not in fact talking about the same thing when we speak of equality. Perhaps one of these things has been done to death to no avail already, and that's why it's annoying, and the other is yet to be endeavoured at all, and that's why it's offensive.
And that I find myself self-censoring as well, because I know as soon as I speak to usually a man, there is a sense of defensiveness.
Here's a funky idea, right? Maybe if people get defensive around you, it might be because you attack them. If you were to say, white men are all wrong skins, do you not understand why your dad gets defensive and your mum doesn't? Or, no, yeah, that's wrong skins for you. They're always wrong thinking.
Because perhaps in the past they've been lambasted for whatever else they've said or whatever other debates they've entered into.
Or it's possible that you are in the very process of lambasting at that exact moment. When you think you're talking about gender equality, you are in fact talking about taking human rights away from men. I mean, when men get defensive about your claims, they can't be reacting intuitively to being silenced in the past, because as we've already established, white men were not silenced in the past. White men being silenced is a phenomenon that only just materialized into existence last Tuesday, remember? Alright, next.
I feel like we talk about self-censorship a lot, as almost like resolutely a negative thing. And I'm a little bit confused by that. Like, censorship is definitely sort of the antithesis of free speech, the government telling you what you can and can't say.
Yeah, like in Nottinghamshire, for instance. If you're a man there, you have to be very careful what you say in public, because if any woman feels like she's the victim of what you said, you have officially committed a hate crime. I think that would have been worthy of an event at this festival all by itself. A discussion about how men can deal with these senseless totalitarian laws that are being rolled out across the country, and how we can perhaps plead with the aforementioned government to foreseeably start rolling them back before we've all been frog-marched into a gender apartheid apocalypse.
It seems to me like self-censorship is actually quite an important part of having free speech.
Sometimes self-censorship is voluntary. Like when we're at a festival to celebrate men and we hear the unfiltered racist misandry of that first young lady, We quietly hold back and bite our tongues because we don't want to cause a fuss. But as I just said, sometimes the self-censorship is not voluntary, such as in the streets of Nottinghamshire, where men have to self-censor or they risk being prosecuted for a hate crime. And this is a problem faced uniquely by males. A woman can't do this to another woman. She can say, she committed a hate crime against me, officer, but the other woman can say, yeah, well, she committed a hate crime against me, officer. And it's a stalemate. They both feel like the victim. A man can't just say, she committed a hate crime against me, officer, because they're like, there's no such crime, sonny. There's no such incident on the books. You're nicked. At that point, his only option is to say he identifies as female. And pray we've caught up to Canada.
We have a horrible milieu of all sorts of thoughts, and you don't just vocalise them all and put them into the public space. Self-censorship is the process of saying, oh, I've got that kind of half-baked idea about feminism. Maybe I shouldn't say that until I've worked out better, or maybe I should make a judgment about what's appropriate to bring to the public sphere.
Yes, and as we just heard, Jude Kelly is not making any effort to self-censor. We're all swimming in patriarchy, but we love men, is one hell of a half-baked idea about feminism, if you ask me. And little Annie Tourette's over there didn't say she was a feminist, but the fact that she couldn't wait to tell the world that her dad has the devil in him implies to me that she might have also dabbled in patriarchy theory. None of them stop themselves at any point and go, hang on, maybe we should listen to white men as well, because they're human too. No, your first protocol is nobody should have to listen to white men. They deserve nothing. We're all swimming in their domineering essence after all. Oh, but we totally love them! Not a moment's hint of self-censorship in any of that. Women can spew just religious nonsense about men's eternal evil without the slightest fear of offending anyone. While men can't even say hello to a woman without risking a sexual harassment charge. And derp history or no derp history, that is a massive inequality that needs to be addressed. We need to go back to the way we came if we are to achieve equality. And yet all you did in this fucking debate was confirm with each other that you're still not going fast enough. You need to keep smashing the patriarchy until you no longer see any evidence for it. Which, spoiler alert, is never.
There has to be a judgment on what's the sort of public value of bringing it there, but it's not resolutely a bad thing. We need to self-censor. I think it's kind of important.
Yeah, they're applauding because he is a white male. So, yeah, of course, he needs to self-censor. But everyone's still aware that women and people of colour do not, because they're the only ones who've ever had to throughout humanity. All the way up until last Tuesday. Good. Glad we cleared that up. But, it causes stress, sir. Self-censorship. It's one thing to have a healthy sense of inhibition, but if you're constantly hiding your own thoughts and emotions for the sake of someone else's, then it causes stress to build up. In children, it causes asthma and eczema and all that. In adults, it causes ulcers and rashes and strokes and heart attacks and, well, all kinds of very nasty deaths, basically. You name it, stress will make it worse. So, I would beg to disagree, sir. I think self-refinement is important. I think self-mastery is important. But when it comes to self-censorship, you have gone too far. Just like I think pushing yourself is important and lifting yourself up is important. But when it comes to punching yourself, you've gone too far. I do not think it is important to censor yourself any more than I think it's important to punch yourself. Don't do it if you can feasibly avoid it. And if you find yourself in a crowd of people who seem to collectively agree that self-censorship is an important part of character building and only white men should be obliged to do it, well, those people are very fucking confused people. Fortunately, those are things you can feasibly avoid. Next.
We represent the most powerful group socially, being 3 young white men.
It's the only part of your comment that bears repeating, madam. 3 white men. Fuck all of them. One grew up in a caravan, another's the son of a garbage man, but fuck them, they're all in the Ku Klux Klan. Those 3 white men. Interesting that it's young white men now. Young white men are even more powerful than old white men. Are they? That's new. And they're both clearly more powerful than any women of any age or race. Yeah, that's not so new.
I'm a gay man. I know that if I walk down the street holding my boyfriend's hand, that we will likely be verbally harassed in London in 2016 in specific areas.
In specific areas of London, you can be stabbed just for being a person. Would you care to specify which boroughs you'd like to crack down on? And do be careful not to pick one of the areas that's mostly non-white. Because then it's gays versus POCs again, and it's going to be yet another rainbow gunfight that blows up in the faces of straight white men.
Do you think that my right not to be called a faggot, where do you think that stops with regards to my right not to be offended?
At the fucking starting gate, faggot. It stops at the same place as your right not to be called Shedjinsia. Oh, it doesn't bother you to be insulted in that language. Well, it probably should.
That's the thing that I never really get to in these discussions. It's always men, normally white, telling me that I don't have a right to be offended.
The person speaking is white and male. Yeah, I know. And that's not even the furthest extent of his vast region of self-awareness desert. Apparently, it's always men telling him he has no right to be offended. He seems to have completely missed all the moments in this very festival in which women have outright said to him that he doesn't have the right to be offended on account of being a white male. Sure, women tell you you're bad for being a white male, and lo and behold, you blame it on the white males. Not a massive shocker, friend.
But, when it actually comes to it, what's more important, basically? My right not to be harassed, or your right to be offended?
Being offended and being harassed are not equivalent things, sir. In my opinion, we should all have the right not to be repeatedly and irrationally chased and engaged with against our will. Because that is provable and measurable. It's called harassing someone. But no one should have the right to never be faced with something they find disgusting. Because that is immeasurable and unprovable, and it's called offending someone. You can't swap words and legal concepts around willy-nilly to suit your progressive stack. You dirty little AIDS pig. Don't do that.
That's illegal, though, isn't it? That's a crime figure. No, it's not.
No, you might be thinking of the Nottinghamshire model there. In Nottinghamshire, it's illegal for a man to call a woman anything she doesn't like. Homophobia can be classified as a hate crime, but it's not a special kind of hate crime, like misogyny, where guilt is assumed automatically at the whim of the accuser. Look, I can sort of see what you're trying to do. As I said, women in Britain are actually getting the right not to be offended. As each county picks up the Nottinghamshire model, women are accomplishing the right to legally prosecute any man who offends them for any reason. Now, I'm looking at that and saying no one should have that right. Whereas you're looking at that and saying, I want that right too. Not for men, though, just for the small percentage of men who fuck other men. Well, the small percentage of those men who fuck other men, but also get triggered by mean words. The small amount of homosexual men who are actually faggots should also be allowed to legally prosecute anyone who offends them. Unless it's a woman, obviously, or a person of colour. But basically anyone who's not a straight white man should be allowed to prosecute any straight white man who offends them. What about bisexual half-caste men? Oh, we'll consult the progressive stack, it'll be fine.
No, it's not. Shouting faggot at us in the street is not illegal. We have to prove it. No. Okay, you think it is, you know more than me about anti-trans, of course it is. I go to the police station and I have to justify that I felt physically threatened with my life.
Oh, so you don't actually have to be threatened. You just have to feel like you are. Well, you're well on your way then. You're almost an honorary woman. You're like a 1.5 class citizen.
Someone shouting faggot at me is not illegal. No, it's not. Because of people like you. So thanks for that.
you have it, third gentleman on the panel. It's because of people like you, sir, that we are not arresting each other for saying faggot. I think he was trying to insult you there. You are standing in the way of totalitarianism, and you should feel bad for that. I think that's actually what he's saying. Shame on you for delaying the progress of Big Brother. That's where we're at. I almost feel privileged to be alive in this generation, to witness humanity's lowest ebb. I can't turn away.
The pay gap exists. You mentioned something like women in the 20s and 30s.
Yeah, I'm not doing the subtitles anymore. I can't be fucking bothered deciphering this wank.
Yes, that's true. If you drill down on the data, absolutely fine. But then, what's led to that is some guy standing up and saying that the pay gap doesn't exist. So again, think responsibly about what you're saying.
Right, I caught some of that. It's basically, oh my god, triggered. A guy over there just denied the wage gap. I can't even. He should be censoring himself. And the guy on the right of the panel, the guy who just got an earful for impeding the progress of thought crime, like I said, he's not even an anti-feminist or anything. He's quite sympathetic to true, proper feminism and all that. He's just skeptical about the wage gap and skeptical about political correctness and so on. It's like they've got a devout Christian and a fundamentalist Christian, and just for good balance, a guy who doesn't quite believe in the resurrection or the virgin birth, but is nevertheless a Catholic. And as far as this room is concerned, he is the devil. At least he was, until the Holy Spirit denier in the audience stood up.
Okay. Obviously, there's a lot of heat in the room.
Yes, do you remember what it was that brought that heat into the room? It wasn't when Jude came on and said, "We're all swimming in my Satan." It wasn't when the American lady said, "My dad voted Satan, I think he is a Satan. You men are also Satans." No, they love that. They lap that shit up at the Being a Man festival. No, the thing that got the room all hot and clammy was when that awful man said, maybe Satan isn't Satan. Maybe he's just the man. They don't like that at the Being a Man festival. You can't go around saying Satan is just a man. What kind of... Satan is all around us. He influences everything. You have to keep fighting against it, even though it seems to get bigger the more we fight it. Much like the invisible space fluid in which mentally ill people sometimes think they're trapped.
It is very muddy water and difficult, and you are sort of struggling about, and sometimes people are drowning inside all of this place.
Yes, Jude. Okay. All right, end of segment. Oh, speaking of drowning in muddy, mentally ill fluid.
Gender is a symbolic jab, swing, 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 jab, 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 swing, 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 jab, jab, jab. So mutually assured destruction.
And now I'm going to go in and see a performance and some talking by Kelly, Kelly Okarakiriki, Kelly from Block Party. He's the big name for this Saturday. He's the draw. I like his music, so I'm going to listen to him. I really hope he doesn't turn out to be a massive S-Jew.
Jab, jab, jab. More a costume than an uppercut. More a costume than an essence uppercut. Jab, jab. Uppercut. Jab, 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 jab. Super glued garden gnomes all around the playground. Uppercut. Jab, jab. Magic mushrooms, mountain goats. Uppercut. Truck drivers sleeping in lay-bys. Jab, jab. It's pretty weird up there. The ruptured surface is jab. The ruptured surface is jab, swing. And wait. There should be music. Where's the music?
I was sort of frowned upon and laughed at and obviously dealing with PPD at the same time. It was really, really difficult because it wasn't just, I was just out of recovery as well, and I was trying to build my life back up. And then when you have people laughing at you and ripping you apart again, you don't know how to handle it. And I think people have just got to be, and yet again, it's the statement like earlier, more respectful, but it's not solved for the day. So what I'd say is that everybody's beautiful and enjoy each other that way.
I think you just got to look at the sort of the suicide rate of men. I think it speaks for itself. It's now the biggest killer of men in this country, over 45 suicides. The suicide rate in men has not changed in 30 years in this country. It's stayed the same for 30 years. In women, that rate is halved in 30 years, but in men, it's stayed the same. Nothing is changing. It's 76% of all suicides are male. We desperately need men to get men to start opening up and talking and making it okay to be vulnerable and to have these conversations that we're having now.
Jab, swing, jab, 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 swing. Jab, swing, jab, 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 swing. Jab, swing, jab, swing. Uppercut. Jab, 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 jab.
All right, yes, hello, new segment. Hi, I'm gonna try and make this video as symmetrical as workable, but it's probably going to be top heavy unless I can think of quite a lot of things to say to our next special guest. It's Grayson Perry. He's an old school. What on earth is the PC term for it now? He's like Dame Edna. He's like Dame Edna.
And I think, that men could change, and I think that you could be as happy as me.
He's a little bit scarier than Dame Edna. Like, you know how some people have a phobia of clowns? And some people have a phobia of those sort of porcelain marionette puppets. And these are considered legitimate phobias, because clowns and marionettes are considered legit scary. Well, at what point does transphobia become a legit phobia? I put it to you that it's here. So, where's the line, though? Where does transphobia change from a form of bigotry like racism to a form of victimhood like agoraphobia? If I'm freaked out by Caitlyn Jenner, I get shunned and shamed and ostracized. But if I'm freaked out by Grayson Perry, you'd probably go, yeah, that's fair enough. Here, have a safe space. Now, it's not necessarily that he's dressed like a Bratz doll. That's not what's scary. It's the laughter there. That's rather shrill, frosted cackle of the long undead. The fact that he also looks like a clown puppet is just the icing on the cake. And I'm not going to eat that cake. Shit, I suppose I am. Bollocks.
I think we've got time for Q&As.
Yes, in the interests of preserving the content of your show, Grayson, just in case you're still touring it, I will do the courtesy of once again skipping the talk and picking it up at the Q&A. But if you want the too long didn't watch version of what I just saw, men's problem is they're too macho. What a bunch of bellends.
Thanks. Great. That was great talk. I'm really intrigued by what you think now. The world seems to be taken over by a kind of new maleness.
May I field this one, please, Grayson? All right. What?
And I feel genuinely quite frightened.
It's been taken over by new males.
New males?
Has it?
Yes. Yes, there's a new maleness in the air, and he's frightened of it. You might be too old for this wave of feminism, Grayson, but it's called patriarchy theory. It's not just about the cigar-chomping fat cats anymore. Now the list of enemies includes fathers, husbands, brothers, male friends, male employees, male students, and even infant boys. They're all being held partially responsible for oppressing the world, and especially oppressing women. At the explicit command of a higher education system. It's It's the kind of hysterical, dehumanizing war propaganda that hasn't been seen since Nazi Germany, Grayson. That's how we got to this point. The point where someone can stand up in public in front of hundreds of people and say, I feel this new sort of Jew in the air. You know what I mean? There's this new sort of Jewiness. You know what I mean? And it frightens me. And he thinks he's saying something perfectly compassionate and progressive. And so does everyone else. They all find this normal. Except yourself, Grayson. You're a few generations behind these folks. You're like, wait, what? I thought they were just in charge of the banks.
Well, I haven't noticed watching the news recently that it's been taken over.
Well, no, sorry, look, I mean, old males.
There we go. No, you're right. It's the old men. I mean, the lady in the previous Q&A seemed quite convinced that young white men are the most powerful group. But our illustrious host here is more comfortable believing old white men are worse. I think it might be a coincidence that older men think older men are the problem while younger men think younger men are the problem. Really, I think it's just a crapshoot. Whatever will stick. Anything that gets everyone to agree on the obvious truth that one way or another, men are the problem.
But I mean, there just seems like a whole change. And I feel that what you're talking... I don't know how we're supposed to be as blokes faced with Ian Duncan Smith.
He's a conservative politician. And he's pro-Brexit. Yeah, no, I'll give you a moment to recover from the shock. Grayson, he's requesting a roast from you. And he's chosen Ian Duncan Smith as the effigy to be torched. I know he said it's this new maleness he's frightened of, and Ian Duncan Smith is anything but young on you, but he doesn't care, Grayson. He just hates men. He hates the young ones, he hates the old ones, and he just swaps around whenever... He doesn't know what he's doing. He just wants you to burn a dick puppet, Grayson, and make it a Brexit-flavoured dick puppet, because the one thing better than institutionalised misandry is globally institutionalised misandry.
So what's your question?
I don't really know. I just love the way you're talking. What do we do, Grayson? Faced with all that kind of new, you can't argue. If you.
I think you can argue. You can shout about stuff, especially like someone like me who's got a bit of a public voice. You can have a shout about it. I was in the paper the other day having a shout about Brexit and stuff.
Well played. I've got to hand it to some of the old bastards who are set in their ways. When you get set in your ways, you don't get helped up by those around you, but nor do you get dragged down by those around you. This guy in the audience just said an actually quite sinister thing. What do we do faced with all that kind of new, you can't argue? And Grayson just went, you can argue. I love that. He didn't even go, what? Just, yes, you can. Brilliant. If it was me, I just would have stood there aghast, wondering what the hell he's going to say next after what do we do faced with all that kind of new you can't argue. What the bumming fudge are you talking about? I mean, what are you referring to? What is it that's frightening you? First you called it the new maleness, and now you're calling it the new you can't argue. Did you just remove the M from YMCA? And now you've got the new M and the new YCA. Is that what it stood for all along? You men can't argue.
We have these words like man flu and man up and mansplaining.
A kind of new maleness.
And all these things which are basically ways of saying, stop talking if you're a man.
New, you can't argue, you're...
Do you mean arguing with males is not an option? Is that part of your question? Given that we can't argue with men, what do you think we should do with them? Like, what the fuck are you asking? Because that sounds like what you're asking. You're saying, now that I've decided that diplomacy with men is impossible, what do you suppose is the next logical step in dealing with this threat? Look, all I heard from you was what sounded like a shoe closet full of Freudian slippers, sir. But what I got from it boils down to, so do you think we have no option but to declare war on men? And in light of that, Grayson, your answer was perfect and admirably delivered. No, you can in fact argue with men. Even Republican men, even pro-Brexit men, even Russian men. I don't know where you got the idea that we can't, you fucking crazy person. I like you, Grayson. You may do your anti-Brexit rant.
I was shouting at you lot. for fucking not standing up to him enough.
Yeah.
The Liberals lost the Brexit. It wasn't the other side won, particularly the youngsters who didn't go out and vote. So I think there's plenty for us to shout about.
You don't know how many youngsters were in fact in favour of leave. You certainly don't know how many under 18s were in favour of leave. You didn't even realise how many over 18s were in favour of leave until the early hours of June the 24th. Because until then, they were in the shadows, in the corners, quietly getting on with their shit, only speaking when spoken to and never being spoken to. Socially, they don't have strength in numbers, but democratically, their vote is worth just as much as anyone else's. Children and teenagers are no different, except they don't have a vote, so you'll never know, but they're the same. Day to day, they are, to some degree, socially ruled by the loud minority, but they're populated by a silent majority who don't take part in the wacky conversations you have at lunchtime about pop culture and contemporary celebrities. Your social hierarchy doesn't have to accommodate these space lepers, but unfortunately for you, your democracy does have to accommodate them, every bit as much as you. And that really pisses you off, doesn't it? Not just you, Grayson, but dude in the audience. That's what you mean by this new you can't argue. It's very fucking new speak, by the way. That's what I mean by sinister. You're trying to say, what do we do about all these bastards who refuse to vote the correct way, no matter how much we spend on our pro-Remain propaganda? This isn't how democracy is supposed to work. We're supposed to get our own way every single time without contest. Now, what do you think we should do with the people who oppose us? No wonder you all fucking love Castro so much. Why was anyone surprised? He died on the first day of this festival, by the way. I didn't hear anyone mention it. I don't think they can come to a consensus on whether or not he was a good example of being a man.
We've been nice to each other, and it's nice being nice.
Yes, be nice to each other, but be complete pricks to the people who voted wrong. Most of this shit is turbulent beyond recognition, but there are some patterns. The peekaboo thing is a consistent pattern, and other such markers of arrested development. Children of, 5 or 6 years old will quite readily say, everyone should be nice, everyone should get along with each other, everyone should share with each other. Come back 5 minutes later when they're not getting what they want, and suddenly it's, no, me, mine, I want! Well, they've never grown out of it. They don't even understand why it's hypocritical. They're just selfish. They've never learned to actually care about other people's needs. They just learned to pretend to. Because when you appear to care about other people, it helps get you more free shit. Everyone should be nice and get along. Unless my summer vacation to Boulogne is going to cost me an extra €100, in which case everyone is evil and we should all live in fear and we should dismantle our democracy.
And I think all we've got to be is be more aware of ourselves, more aware that we can change it and be good models, model good behaviour. Half of what I try to do is just be like something, and then people say, because that's a very powerful message. The medium is the message. So I'm not embarrassed, having fun, try not to be too angry, just a little bit.
Cool. Can I just be a straight white male? Is that an acceptable statement? Can I just wear jeans and t-shirts and drink beer and listen to rock music? Can I wear a camouflage pattern despite not needing to be camouflaged? Can I have an interest in machines that I'll never get to use? Can I say crass things to my friends and insult each other and not care? Can I be attracted to women? Okay. Okay, I'll make sure I'm never attracted to women. What? Can I do either of those things if I myself am a woman? Okay. Gotcha. I think I see what you're doing now, Grayson.
So yeah, I don't know. I think we just be good examples, and where we got, there's no recipe. I think that's the thing. Often we want a recipe, we want a list of tick box stuff. That's it, tick, 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 tick. All I have to do is follow this recipe. It's not. We're driving down that road between rigidity and chaos. We've got to keep our eye on the road. We've got to keep our hands on the wheel, and we've got to make adjustments every second of every day, and we've got to intuit it, and that's how we go through life. And there's no relaxation. You can't fall asleep at the wheel, and that's tricky. That's not you want to hear. I think people sometimes they just want to say X, Y, Z. Done. It's not like that.
He's right. You can't just jump to the top of the mountain. You have to climb it one step at a time. You can't just press a button and bring an end to democracy. You have to chip away at it. One small issue at a time. One human rights violation at a time. One complete legal overhaul at a time. Like the feminists are doing. First, strip men of all their rights. And when you finish doing that, start stripping women of all their rights. And then voila! You have the utopia you are fucking talking about, you sick, blind wankers!
Anyway, I've got time for a couple more questions, I think.
I have a question. Fuck off.
Who's got to hit that man there, yes. It's nice to see so many men here. First time I did this, there was definite lack of men.
How do you know that? Maybe there were a lot of female-presenting demi-gender males in the audience, and you just committed a mass misgendering. You better pray we haven't caught up to Canada.
Hi, Grayson.
Hello.
Great performance, thanks. I'm reading your book at the moment.
Yes.
And the thing that really struck me was your plea for more colour.
We're really asking the hard-hitting questions now.
Yes.
I've looked at myself today, and I've looked around this audience. Should we have more colour?
Yes, it's not just men. I won't lay this to blame.
Well, no, men wear colour all the time. They wear a lot of neon yellow and a lot of neon orange. They wear a lot of vests with reflective stripes. Do you get what I'm driving at?
Quite often I'll sit in a tube carriage and it'll be entirely clad in black. There's this myth as well that people hold on to, they're slimming. And I think it's just a sort of, it's a default thing, and people, if you go to a fashion show, for instance, the whole audience is in black. Because if you wear colour, it stands out. And that's, A, you're going to get looked at, and B, you've got to think of other colours that go with it. You've got to get the ensemble right, because black is always going to be black. And also, because they notice your clothes, the next day they say, are you still wearing that red dress?
Look, in a minor sort of way, you might have a good point, but can I just make this as clear as possible? If I am to choose between a world where nobody wears bright colours or a world where nobody disagrees with each other, then I'm going with Penguin Land every time. These are two different kinds of diversity. Diversity of fashion and diversity of thought. I think they're both good ideas, but one of them is definitely my favourite. I don't care if everyone gets a rainbow-coloured Iron Man suit. They will be fucking useless if you only get to wear them at the behest of the mob. Then the next season, RoboCop will become the new Iron Man, and we'll all be forced to wear that instead. Any day you may give me a world where everyone's dressed like a nun, but at least there are some people on that train carriage who don't believe in blaming men for all the evil in the world. Maybe I'm weird.
And that's, I think, half the reason people wear dark clothes is so the next day they go into work, they don't go, oh, not that old suit again. Because I've had the paparazzi shouting at me, oh, we've seen that outfit! But I think colour, I think because I'm an artist and I'm into material culture. So I'm always looking for the visual and the tactile and the textual version of what the message is. That's why I'm so fascinated by how men look and what they wear and what they buy. Because it's a manifestation of what's going on inside.
A lot of people wear clothes out of utility. Dare I say most people. What are the three main functions of clothing? To keep us warm, to keep us protected, and to keep our bodies off of display. We wear clothes because we don't want our bodies to be cold and or hurt and or seen. It's to keep the heat from escaping from our bodies, and it's to keep the light escaping from our bodies. Black is very good at that. In more ways than one. And you appear to know that, Grayson. You appear to understand that wearing plain, colourless clothing is usually not a self-expressive decision, it's a self-inhibitive decision. The reason we don't wear bright colours is because we actually don't want to. Not everyone is a closet pantomime diva waiting to happen.
And I think the lack of colour is, something that we really suffer from, men. They're very scared. Once in a while you say, colour is back for men. But then why did it go away? It's like, make America great again. Surely it's always been okay. So it's like, I don't know. I think it's fear of standing out and getting it wrong. But it might just be practical, it doesn't show your grease stain from your bicycle.
So the question is not, why don't we dress more colourfully? Because you've found the wrong link in the causality there. The question is what is causing us to be self-inhibitive? And is that even a problem? Yeah, when do we address the other side of the coin? If we're marking the point at which dressing unexpressively becomes problematic, are we also marking the point at which dressing expressively becomes problematic? Like, you probably should go to a funeral dressed like that. Is it possible, this is going to sound really weird to most of you, but is it possible that men are actually already dressing with the appropriate amount of self-restraint? And perhaps women are going a little bit too over the top in the other direction, in the department of wearing clothing to show off your body rather than hiding it. But silly me, this is the BAM festival. It's not our place to suggest that maybe men are already doing it right, or that stoic people are already doing it right. No, that would leave us with no one to blame our problems on, but the emotional retards and the women. And we're not here to have a go at a festival of emotional retards.
Anyway, so the last question of the day. This man here. Have you got a mic?
Yes, you have. Oh, never gets old.
Gentleman in the hat here.
Yes, I have a question. Well, since we did a roast of Ian Duncan Smith, what about, just to balance it out, how do you feel about Jeremy Corbyn?
Still scared of him. I'm still scared of him. I'm 56. I'm still scared of him. If the doorbell rings, my first thought is he coming to get me? That's the damage it does. I'm not saying anymore.
Okay, bye, Grayson. I'm confident I just witnessed the creepiest grin ever forged by a human face. I'll have the braised nope. Thank you very much, with a side order of nopes and a tall-ass glass of nope. All right, I think we can plough into the final segment now. Sorry, guys. But it's winter, so I feel like making prog rock. That means making long, grinding, unusual things that most people won't enjoy. But fuck you. Well, not you. You're still here. Not fuck you. Not without consent and stuff. Look, I learned something. Your taxes are well spent. Okay, I'm out. Enjoy the poop. The poop is all I have to say about that performance I saw. Pardon me, I must away, so I can wash my mouth out with the fluid from my freshly plucked eyes.
Let's take a note from Nelson Mandela. You have to find something that is beyond separation politics.
What?
Patriarchy.
What?
White supremacy.
What?
We're swimming in it.
Uppercut.
Separation politics. Patriarchy. White supremacy. Patriarchy. We're swimming in it.
Jab, swing, jab, swing.
There isn't a make. There isn't a make. There isn't a make. We're a matrix. So I just want you to get back home.
Ladies and gentlemen, something has broken through.
Let's take a note from Nelson Mandela.
Reached from the car park.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Some people don't remember this bust being put there. That means it was put there in an alternate universe.
Uppercut, jab, jab. I haven't even read a tenth of them. Articulated and renewed, jab, swing, jab, jab. The realization settles like brick dust. Jab, swing. Masculinity is jab. Masculinity is jab, swing. The ships are full of water. They've been here too long. Masculinity is performative. Jab, uppercut, jab, jab. This happened and there was nothing I could do to stop it. Jab, swing, or a costume than an uppercut, or a costume than an essence. They've been here too long. Jab, 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 swing.
Please take your seats in the Royal Festival Hall. The performance begins in 1 minute.
Jab, 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 swing.